Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the review of the November Humble Monthly, a subscription service in which the curators at the Humble Bundle will send you a collection of games for the modest price of $12, 5% of which will go to a charity of their choosing. But the question is it worth it? You could just as easily donate the $12 straight to charity, so are the qualities of the mystery games good enough to warrant the price of the bundle? That's what I'm here to answer. I'll be taking a look at the games and giving you my take on their value based on their price, how enjoyable they are, and how those things fit within the context of a bundle as a whole. Be sure to stick around at the end of the video for instructions on how you can earn a chance to get your hands on some of these titles for yourself. Now without further ado, let's get started. The first game that we're going to cover is Legend of Grimrock II, the very game that Humble Bundle led off with in hopes of alluring you into subscribing to their bundle, and let me tell you, it's a good one. The story goes a bit like this. You're on a boat, motherfucker, take a look at you. But, not by choice. Then something weird happens to a compass that spooks your ship, so it's like, hell nah, and crashes onto an island. So you pick up a stick and show that despite the cage, your rage helps you not be a trapped rat. Well, except for maybe that guy. And after exploring the island for a bit, you find a letter from who I can only assume is a puppet that essentially says, guess what, bud? We're playing a game. And you're like, yeah, no shit, I just bought it. Honestly, that's about as far as I've gotten into it story-wise. The game seems to be far more about the adventure than its narrative anyway. You've got your secrets, like alcoves you might not think to explore, hidden buttons on the wall, vague hints that make you say, hey, wait, isn't there another statue like this? And, do you think that this is an oak tree? You've got your puzzles and a bunch of wacky enemies that are always preceded by, oh my fucking god! Because they come at you from a direction you weren't looking at, like this, oh my fucking god, a turtle! Or, oh my fucking god, a phallic shrubbery! Or, oh my fucking god, a fizzmane, ignite! And on top of all that, a level of detail that makes sure you're paying attention. Where are you supposed to get a sword? Have you checked that crate you picked up a while back and just assumed you'd be using it for storage? Wait, no one else makes that assumption? Shit. You have access to all of your spells at the beginning, but if you don't know what to press, you probably won't know how to cast them. You might even end up casting a poison cloud spell right on yourself, and that would be embarrassing. The game features a tremendous amount of replayability by letting you set your difficulty, as well as letting you put additional handicaps on yourself, like only being able to save at life crystals or going old school and having to make your maps yourself with good old-fashioned pen and paper. Overall, it's a blast to play, and well worth the $12 of the bundle by itself. I personally would have been willing to pay around $20 for it, which is convenient because it's about $24 right now on Steam. It's already paid for two of itself at this point, how about them apples? Not those apples, those would hurt. The only real complaint I have is that the control system is a little hard to master. You move with WASD and turn in place with Q and E, or you can look around by holding right click, which can also be used to turn, but again, only while standing still. Combat with ranged fighters can be rough as well, like forgetting to pick up a thrown weapon and having a member not be productive, or not knowing that you have to store ammo in one hand and the gun in the other to get it to fire. But overall, I'd give it a solid 8.5 out of 10 in terms of gameplay, and a 10 out of 10 in terms of value. The next title we have here is Valkyria Chronicles, the horrendous and yet somehow fantastic love child of the visual novel and strategy RPG genres. This review is going to be a little bit different, and then I'm going to start with what I hate about it, because if you can't make it past those things, there's no way it's going to bring you anything other than misery. The first thing that I have to complain about is the story, because other than its themes and the discussion of military tactics, the writing is absolutely horrendous. It's god-awful and suffers from all of the weaknesses of your stereotypically mass-produced Japanese animes. Cringeworthy dialogue, awkward emotional pacing, a shoehorned romance, weird anime poses. And honestly, it's a tremendous letdown because there's so much more they could cover. You've got children as young as 15 fighting in a war that they should be losing because they're the underdogs. They're a small country versus the union of the entire empire coming at them. You know, that's pretty big, and civilians being gunned down in the streets, peaceful villages are falling to shambles, racial tensions are at a high. And you know what the characters do? Welkin says some silly bullshit about nature and the rest of his squad just nod and call him deep, and then they fight for their friends. And by the way, Welkin, the protagonist, his main character trait is loves the fuck out of nature, so you know, buckle up for a riveting analogy about a bird and dung beetles, and as he finds beauty in literally everything that hasn't been trampled by military boots. Now, a bad story wouldn't typically ruin a game if the gameplay is solid enough, but let me bring up another catch. Cutscenes are long and unskippable, and story bits vastly outnumber the actual playable levels. If you're lucky, you'll get one of the lazy cutscenes that aren't fully animated, so you can just quickly tap the next button to get through the dialogue as quickly as possible, or, linger at the end of statements to make a character look silly. At its best, you'll get some mildly moving and provocative energy that fully makes use of the beautiful watercolor and ink style. But don't worry, because after that, they'll find a flying pig in the woods and make it an honorary member of their militia, because boo-doop-a-doop-doop storytelling! So, you decide you want to give the game a shot, and you sit through all the cutscenes and play for a couple of levels. Things are starting to heat up, the game's getting pretty good, but you need to take a breather. 2 hours for a prologue in Chapter 1 are a lot for a person to take in. Fucking save your game. I swear to God, there is no autosave function. If you finish something and you never want to see the mean cutscene about the pig again, save your fucking game. Do you want to know why all of my footage isn't past Chapter 1? It ain't for the spoilers, it's because some lessons are learned harder than a bibliophile at a library. Now with all that said, I actually really love the game. I was lucky enough to have played it at a friend's house before this attempt, and got to see what was waiting beyond the sea of boredom before I even had to deal with it. I got to see the strategy involved with taking out specific enemies under specific conditions. I felt his wrath when I ended up getting his favorite character permakilled. I experienced new boss fights that were legitimately entertaining. The RPG elements come a little further in, and you can upgrade your characters and their weapons. Each of them have their own classes and personal potentials, and they affect how they behave in certain circumstances. For instance, if they're a neat freak, they'll lose accuracy in messy environments. Masochists get boosts to defense when their HP is low. Or maybe they'll have a set probability for the enemy to be completely unable to evade. All that makes deciding who to bring along with you that much more strategic. Valkyria Chronicles is something I'd be willing to drop around $30 on, which is saying something because it's only $20 in the store. And despite my previous complaints, I would give Valkyria Chronicles an 8 out of 10 for gameplay alone. And for the low price of the bundle, it gets a 10 out of 10 in value. The next title we're going to tackle today is Lethal League, a 2 to 4 player brawler for those of us who like playing with balls. Wait, smacking others in the face with... You know what? No. The game is pretty much extreme air hockey, where you smash a ball back and forth trying to hit your opponent with it until it inevitably becomes so fast that someone's luck simply runs out and they take one to the kidney. Seriously, how am I supposed to hit that? Right now, the roster stands with 6 memorable characters like Batman, Killer Croc, and the Joker. It doesn't sound like much now, but each of them even comes with their own special abilities like the Double Tap, the Rudy Tooty Asshole Shooty, and the There is some strategy involved that comes in the form of switching the ball's trajectory or bunting it to disrupt the flow of combat and set yourself up for a stronger attack, but mostly I just got mad that I couldn't keep up with the mayhem. There was an online mode, but it didn't connect me immediately, so I lost interest. And honestly, getting served by bots was plenty embarrassing enough. The soundtrack is fantastic and the visuals are pretty captivating. It is so satisfying to hit the ball when it's going at extreme speeds, and even more satisfying when the colors shift in the background because the ball is getting so fast that smacking it tears the very fabric of time and space. There's even a system where as you level up you unlock more colors for your what are they called? Damn it! There's also a leveling system that as you raise the ranks you gain different colors for the various fighters. But overall I'd only be willing to pay around $5 for it, which pales to the $14 they're asking for on Steam. I mean, the game's music is good, but it's not 3 times my willingness to spend $5 good. Unique gameplay elements land this one a 7 out of 10 in gameplay, but the fact that I'm never going to pick it up again leaves me feeling like I wasted a little cash moolah. Still, picked it up for a price of under $2, so 6 out of 10 in value. Have you ever wondered what it would be like to be the President of the United States? Then look no further than the President of the United States Simulator, Saints Row 4. Yeah, I was kind of surprised to see it in here too. In Saints Row 4, you get to go through all the joys of solving global crises, dealing with politicians of differing philosophies, and meeting the general public. Wait, what's wrong with the general public? Oh, right. The alien invasion in simulated reality. Gonna need the Secretary of Offense for this one. Which weapon was that again? It was either the dildo bat or the dubstep gun. Saints Row 4 is the over-the-top, action-packed parody of your run-of-the-mill free-roam sandboxes. There are tons of things to do, ranging from quests to games to collections, but all of which are going to involve crude humor, possible tasteless nudity, and a whole lot of explosions. You can even drag a friend along to freeze you with his superpowers and then smack you off the side of a skyscraper. Michael! As you progress the main storyline, you'll be able to equip yourself with all kinds of awesome vehicles, but they fall off pretty quick as you unlock a huge range of superpowers at the same time. And they make navigating steel ports 67 times more interesting. Yes, 67 specifically. I did the math. There are a few downsides in the form of missions that strip you of your newfound super awesome powers and, its short-lived narrative. But hey, you can always buy the DLC to extend the enjoyment, right? Well, that's gonna take some hits in value. Overall, I'd be willing to pay $20, which is nice because it's only $15 on Steam regularly. The real issue is that it was about $40 on release, so maybe I should lower my personal price to $10. Huh? Huh? Nah, I had fun. I'll play nice. Gameplay gets a 9 out of 10 with a 7 out of 10 in value. The next entry on our list is Besiege, the tactical sandbox of rewarding victories and spectacular failures. This game brings back the nostalgic memories of the playground sandbox. If, of course, you were a sociopathic asshole hell-bent on demolishing other people's sandcastles at the ripe old age of 5. Looking at you, Rodney. Just because your mom gave you a silly name doesn't mean you can wreck my shit. And just because I'm 20-something years old doesn't mean I can't wreck yours back. The core gameplay comes in the form of simple challenges that can be accomplished in limitless ways, and they give you tons of tools to do it with. It's like big boy Legos. I don't even know what half of this shit does. Ball joint? No thanks, I'll keep mine separate. My favorite is the piston. There isn't a single problem that can't be solved with pistons. Need to skillfully navigate a minefield but staring is too hard? Pistons. Local rock god being a standoffish asshole and smiting your sin machines? Deicide by pistons. And, maybe a cannon. Need to kill the armies of your tyrant king? Alright, we're getting a little crazy with the pistons, but you get the point.
But Jonathan,
I hear you say.
Surely there must be something wrong with it.
To which I reply, shut up, I was getting to that. You always interrupt me and it's really rude. Just like Rodney. Besiege is an early access title, and as such it is woefully incomplete. There are currently only 2 zones, with one locked off until you finish the first. It's kind of like getting a ticket to an amusement park, but only having 4 rides actually work, and the other 2 are being held hostage until you give the merry-go-round and bumper cars a shot. Dang though, that tilt-whirl really looks fun. Too bad, fuck you. On the bright side though, they let you see what could potentially be a reality if they decide to be responsible developers, which every sign points towards, so let's drop the cynicism and embrace the warm, cleansing fuzzies of hope. Oh yeah. Doesn't that feel good? Other than that, the only complaint I really have is that the camera controls like a beaten toddler with sand in his eyes. Not that, I would know what that looks like. I wish there was a sphere around the construction zone that the camera was fixated to so that the townspeople weren't saved by strategically building a house directly in my retina. It's very bare bones at the moment, so I'd personally only pay about $5 for it, and on Steam it's about $8, which feels a little steep, but I'm willing to let it slide because it's such a great game. Gameplay gets a 9 out of 10 with an 8 out of 10 in value. Up next, we have what I consider to be the sleeper hit of the bundle, Sanctuary RPG Black Edition. It's a quirky game that draws inspiration from old text-based adventures, JRPGs, and the roguelike genre. Though it may not look like much on its exterior with terminal-style ASCII art, it manages to pack a surprising amount of graphical variety, going so far as being able to make characters distinguishable from one another, portray a myriad of landscapes and enemies, and still find the time to squeeze in a character creator. Fallout 4 eats your heart out. Speaking of character creation, it's managed fantastically. You get to pick what you look like as well as your body type, class, race, and your province of origin, all of which influence the traits that your character has. Not only that, but there seem to be even more that can be unlocked if you play the game successfully enough. I was a wizard from the mythical north and played as a Krast for no particular reason. Character creation isn't even the pinnacle of its depth. There are quests, side quests, a day and night cycle, crafting, stats, RNG-based loot drops, all of which have their own graphical accompaniment, and tons of lands to explore. Enemies have different modifiers that can alter how you have to treat them in combat, and there's some sort of base building thing that improves the kind of armor and weaponry you can craft. All of this stuff might be standard, I wouldn't know, but I'm actually impressed with the longevity that this game manages to offer with such a simple, streamlined appearance. The music is ridiculously good and action-packed, and somehow manages to work despite the lack of animation visible on the screen. One thing that the game does surprisingly well is its humor, supposing you are a fan of dry wit or the surreal and random. The only thing that really bothered me about it was how battles were portrayed. I couldn't tell which health bar was whose initially, and no matter how many combat sequences I went through, I still wasn't sure what my skills did. I think that they may have healed me and damaged the enemy, but maybe that was some factor from one of the 1 million traits that I didn't memorize. It's a game that I personally would expect to pay around $5 for, but actually having played it would be willing to spend around $10. which is nice because it falls somewhere in the middle on Steam for around $8. It's worth every penny, and I would highly recommend checking it out if you haven't already. It was so good that I can't even scrape together a joke. I had one about the sword kind of looking like a dick, but that's not only reaching, it's too lowbrow a joke for my channel. But mostly it was just reaching. I'm glad it was in the bundle because I never would have glanced at it otherwise, so overall this gets a 9 out of 10 in gameplay and a 10 out of 10 in value. So the total amount that I'd have been willing to spend on these titles is $90, which is pretty close to the actual retail price of $89. I paid $12, so that's one hell of a deal. Average gameplay score comes to about an 8.4, with most of the titles, 4 out of 6, scoring higher. The average perceived value is 8.5, with 3 out of 6 titles scoring higher. Overall, I'd give the bundle an A in terms of a grade. They have a wonderful selection here, and I look forward to discovering the December bundle when it comes out. If they remain consistent, it's going to bolster the ranks of my Steam library very nicely. Now, if you'd like to win yourself some free games, you can get your chance by subscribing and leaving some feedback in the comments below. I'll randomly be selecting one person from the comments section of this video when I'm ready to release the next review. In the future, it'll be for people who have been subscribed for a certain amount of time as a show of gratitude for their continued support, but as this is the first in the series, I want to give everyone a chance. The winner will receive a Steam code for all of the games that I already own, as well as one game reviewed in this video that they'd like to have. This month's winnings are Legend of Grimrock II, Besiege, and Saints Row 4. There was one more title that was unlocked with this bundle, Towerfall Ascension, but it's technically a part of the next one. You can get it within the next 3 days if you decide to sign up for the bundle. I would have given you more of a heads up, but this video took a little longer to edit, so I'm sorry that I only gave you a 3 days notice. If you want to know what my opinion on Towerfall is, you'll have to subscribe and watch for the next review. Until next time, remember that failure is not the worst case scenario, so glow on with your bad selves and stay awesome.